Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Talks. I'm your host, like always, Brady Carducci, and today on the show, I have the pleasure of talking with a Toronto-based entrepreneur and professional tennis player. He is a Canadian national singles champion, three-time Canadian national doubles champion, and a Canada Summer Games gold medalist. Please welcome to the show my good friend, Raheel Manji. Raheel, how's it going, buddy?
How's it going? Thanks for having me on here. Really excited to be on this show. You guys do it really creative and different. So it's one I'm excited to be on for sure.
Thank you, man. I know we've been talking about having you on the show for a while now, so it's good that we finally got it to make it happen. I'm excited to sit down with you as well. I mean, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Obviously, your playing career for tennis, we're going to talk about that, and then your new venture, your new company you started not too long ago in Mission Elite. So excited to dig into that. But obviously, I have to start the conversation off with this. We're living through a global pandemic right now, COVID-19. How has it been for you, just personally and business-wise? Break it down for us.
Okay, so it's a great question, and I'm going to lead you in with a story. Okay, so there's a story I talk about a lot. There's an old farmer, and he takes care of his crops, and back in the day they had these horses, and horses obviously even still are really valuable. And so one day one of the horses, it runs away. That's a lot of money that gone down the drain. It runs away. You never think you're going to see that horse again. So the old farmer is obviously, that's really important for his business. And the neighbors come by to offer their apologies, and they go, "We're so sorry. It's just terrible." And the farmer goes, "Maybe." And then 2 days later, the horse comes back with three more wild horses. It was a stroke of luck, almost looked like. And the neighbors come by and go, "That's amazing. Wow, look how things turned around." And he goes, "Maybe." 2 days later, now he's got three horses, two of them wild. His 19-year-old son is riding one of the horses, gets bucked off, breaks his leg, and neighbors come by. Terrible, terrible. "We're so sorry. Our condolences." Farmer goes, "Maybe." 2 days later, the local army recruits come by the farmer's house and go, "We're looking to recruit a 19-year-old of war, and we want to take him and ship him as soon as possible." Goes to the son, looks at his leg, goes, "There's no way we can take him. We're just going to leave him here at home." So the neighbors go, "That's amazing. You get to keep your son. He doesn't have to go and fight and die in war." And the farmer goes, "Maybe." And so the point is that, everything on the surface can look bad, but it could be great. And everything that's great on the surface can also be bad. So it's really how you create the opportunity out of it. And so when COVID happened, I was in the middle of I was in the semifinals of a $15,000 tournament in India, actually.
Oh, wow.
And,
okay.
And my first thought is, I get to get the hell out of this country, and then I go,
Yeah.
I come back home, and then, it was a great opportunity. So COVID's been great for me in a lot of cases, and I don't try to focus on where it's not so great, where I find it, to be pretty shit. I try to focus on the good within it.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, even for me, I know at the beginning, like when it first happened,
Yeah.
like everybody, I feel like there was that element of fear, but I mean, now we're already like 6, 7 months into it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people have adapted now. They're like, okay, you know what? Like, it's not, I mean, obviously, it's a tragedy with everyone passing away, but in terms of like day-to-day life,
Yes.
people have found ways to be like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to let this COVID virus affect me. Maybe affect me as bad as people were predicting it would be, right? So
Right.
just finding ways, little things that you do to keep yourself positive, and I like how that even that story just a positive
Yeah.
attitude, and things happen for a reason, right? So
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. So,
So I wanted to, just to kind of start things off, give people a little bit of a background into who you are. Obviously being a professional tennis player, tennis, I feel like even since I've known you has always been a part of, who you are and kind of what you
yeah.
gravitated towards. So what was it in the beginning when you were first starting out that really motivated to you or even inspired you to, just pick up a tennis racket and start playing?
Right. I think it's an interesting journey, because I started playing the sport and I felt like I had some natural talent in the beginning. When I first started, I loved to get out there and I loved to win. And it was a sport where you could really, take the individual win within it.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is I I started around 4 or 5 years old. By the time I was 8 or so, I started competing, and right away I had pretty much jumped. I had 4 years of training before competing. By the time I was 8, I was probably top 20 in the province. Then within 2 years, was top 5 in the country. And by the time I was 10, that was the case. And I never really wavered from top 3 or 2 in the country for my age group up until 18. But the problem with that was that whenever, everywhere I'd go, I'd be labeled as tennis boy,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I hit it, but when I was young, I really hated that. And so by the time I was 13, I was probably one of the best juniors in the world for my age group. And I remember going to a practice after school. I mean, it was just like everything was surrounded around tennis. And I went to
Mm-hmm.
practice after school. And usually I was a really fiery, competitive guy even in practice. And that day I just wasn't having it. My coach goes, "What's wrong with you today?" And it was kind of overwhelming and hitting me like, this is like, there's no escape. It's like you're choked, right?
Yeah.
And so he goes like, "You need to take some time and think some." So immediately after the practice, I went to this bench alone, and I remember just like, I was 13 years old, so I was crying my eyes like, I effing hate this sport. Like I don't have an out. And
Yeah.
I came by the end of that hour, after I got over feeling sorry for myself, I came to the understanding like what an opportunity you have and how much talent you have. Wasting it and dropping out is just not an option. And
Mm-hmm.
so from that point, that was kind of like a point of commitment. And from there, whether I enjoyed it or not, it was something that I knew I had to do and pursue because of the opportunities it would be able to open up down the line. I was always quite forward thinking, even from that age. When it came to when it came to winning matches, I was very in the moment. Like I would
Right.
sacrifice my future to win. I didn't want to lose now. But when
Mm-hmm.
I came on the outside, I was quite forward, long-term thinking in that understanding the opportunities that can come about being a great tennis player.
I
You
like
know,
that. No, it's just because it's just crazy because in tennis it's such an individual sport, but I think because it's an individual sport, it just the amount of not even only like physically draining, but
right,
I think mentally it's like all the pressure, everything is on you.
right,
If you mess up or you make an error, you can't point to
yeah,
your teammate and be like, hey man, come on, it's your fault. It's like
mm,
everything's on you, right? So even
right,
competing at the level that you competed at from since you were 5 6 years old,
mm,
how did going through those experiences, for example, when you said you're like, hey, you know what, I need to take some time to myself, you had to sit alone and just regather your thoughts.
hmm,
How did you find that helped to elevate your mental toughness, and where did you see
yeah,
that pay off most in your life and in
yeah.
your game?
You know, the main thing is you see a lot of great tennis players. They just get so burnt out, and they're stars. I mean, they're childhood prodigies, and
Hmm.
they just burn out. And
Yeah.
and the second they get the option where we can't handle this. This is too much. It's like they quit. By 16, and it's like, how much talent did you have? And for
Hmm.
me, that moment was a moment of, you're going to have some shitty days, and you're going to feel burnt out, and you're going to suffer. And I was so scared of losing. Like,
Mm.
I think when I jumped into the sport, I never really had a grooving process. Like, it's not like Michael Jordan. It's not like a Michael Jordan story where he was terrible and then he became the superstar. For me, it was like, you're in the deep end. Everybody I had to play, Brady, I
Yeah.
felt like I had to beat. And because my whole label was tennis boy, it
Hmm.
felt as if I were to lose, I would lose my whole identity. And so I
Wow.
lived through, yeah. So that juniors, it was like, if you're 2 in the country and you're playing in the country, literally everybody except for one guy you play, you're expected to beat. And if I
Right.
lost, it was like a major self-esteem. So actually didn't lose too many to underdogs, but there were about 2 or 3. I was in the finals of Canadian nationals under 14, and I ended up losing that one. That was a real hit for me. And I was a 14-year-old literally in depression after the loss, and that's
Wow.
very intense. And so what happened was, that point of commitment was like, you're going to have the burnout, you're going to have the shit days, but you're in this for good. There's no excuse, there's no out. In many ways, that was quite helpful. By the time I got to 16, I'd become the youngest Canadian professional in singles and doubles. I was and that was a great accomplishment for me. It opened up a lot of doors, but
Mm-hmm.
because when the tough days were going to come, I said that quitting or using an out is just not an excuse. It really propelled me in that standpoint. So it was that commitment was an extra edge where there's no out, there's no escaping from your matches. Like, you're in this and there's no
Mm-hmm.
excuse. You got to come through, in that sense.
No, 100%. I like, I like that, and just yeah, the amount of pressure is just insane. Even with when it came to losses. So you were saying how you would lose a match, you'd almost go into depression.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, losses are going to happen regardless of whatever sport you're in or
Right.
whatever venture you go into. So as just I guess lost more or not, or just had more losses on your resume as you played
Mm,
more games. How did you
mm,
deal with those losses instead of all of a sudden, like,
yeah.
going into depression every time you
Yeah.
would lose?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's part of becoming a more mature competitor. When I
Mm,
was in juniors, I really didn't lose that much, so I wasn't exposed to that. I've heard stories of them sending some of the best players in the world to play really tough competitions all year round just to learn how to lose. In college,
wow.
I didn't lose so much either, but and when I did lose, it was a real hit in the NCAA. And then what happens is when you go on the pro tour,
Mm-hmm.
um, you have to get used to losing. I mean, it's too tough to win every single week. And at that point, I think exposure to, like, and that's where you can't be afraid to lose, and you have to get exposed to losing, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously you can bounce back quicker. Like, you need to be able to bounce back quick on the pro tour. And so what needs to happen is you've got to lose and get tougher, smarter, wiser, stronger. You can't lose and get discouraged. And you've got to understand that the more you lose, if you can respond the right way, you're actually closer to your goal. Like, losing is actually going to get you closer to your goal. Like, if you get away with winning, you don't make that much changes. It's not that in
Mm,
your face, but losing can be a really good thing if you respond the right way to make changes the right way. And so, to answer your question, as I wanted to express and move up levels, I had to get used to losing more and more and more. And I had to take a more mature approach. That was immature junior
yeah.
mentality of me. But in a lot of ways, it made me really fight hard for every match and not give up. I mean, you would never see me uh, lose a match because of not trying or effort or
Mm.
focus, or when I was locked in, there was so much on the line for me. So that was great. And then to learn that if you want to move up in levels, you want to be one of the best in the world, you got to get used to losing in the beginning and how to bounce back quick, because there's an event every week in a different country, so you've got to bounce back quick.
Hmm.
You
I
know,
like that, and I mean, even in anything like that, bounce back can apply to
right?
any setback, which is so important.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because doing I did a little bit of research just on the more so on the tennis side of your career, because I just
Yeah,
wanted to get more
right.
knowledge on that. And I was just watching a couple of your matches that were on YouTube.
Mm,
I
yeah,
think you're playing like the number one player. In the country at the time. I forget his
mm-hmm,
name, but he was
yeah,
I played out of Ohio. And
yeah,
one thing that I noticed is you mentioned like you're locked in, you're focused, but I could see just after the reactions, you would have you get a point on them, or
mm,
you'd even, let's say, you'd get a point on you. You stayed focused, but at the same time, I could tell you were passionate of it, and you were just locked in. So
right.
going from your, I guess you could say, the high school level to the collegiate level and then to the pro level, what are some things besides obviously the difference in skill that
Mm-hmm,
internally you notice developed inside yourself
yeah,
you were like, oh wow, you know what, when I'm playing matches, maybe my focus was a little off, but now it's like, I'm locked in, and the full
mm.
time in the match, nothing's taking away my attention.
Yeah, I think from every step was so different and gave me unique skills that I had to form together, and that's where I actually built the blueprint for our company,
Mm,
off of this. I think as a junior, because I could, your opponents were still making mistakes. I was really tough and competitive, and that was the base of my foundation. That was what was so important, as a junior, to build a base of competitiveness and toughness. And
mm-hmm,
then what happened was when I went to the NCAA, you very much there's an immense amount of pressure when you're playing for the team and the match comes to you on the line. And so I felt like the next piece of the puzzle was courage and pretty much being able to do the right things rather than doing what feels good. And that's in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't do what feels good. I mean, it feels good to probably, go out or whatnot, but maybe you've got to put your head to the grind and work. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
right thing to do. So do the right thing, even when you don't feel like it. And then when you go on the pro tour, that was really the third area where maturity came in. I think you've got to be so mature on the pro tour, just living in a different country, going week after week, learning to lose, then, being a man about it,
Yeah.
which is really, so I think those were the three skills in each category that really came together.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I like that. So I think
Yeah.
another theme, perspective to your career that I've noticed is
Yeah.
the theme of resilience because,
Hmm.
obviously, in your career, you've had a lot of ups and downs, especially when comes to injury. I know you've dealt with a lot of injuries that, you've had to take a lot of time off for. So just from a general sense, what does the word resilience just mean to you?
Hmm. Resilience means to me, basically, no matter what comes your way, no matter what adversity comes your way, you take it, you accept it, and then you make the next best move. And for me, that was always something that would be really important. I could never uh, accept sitting still, even when there is
Mm.
something that has blocked me. And so, look, the pandemic happened. I created mission. I brought Mission Elite to fruition on court. I was supposed to go on a tour to Israel after I turned pro at Indiana, 4 wrist tears. Obviously, my hips were acting up. I said, I'm going to go and get into the NCAA coaching, build something there, build a name there if I can. Obviously, when I was, a junior going into the reason why I went to the NCAA is because, so I mentioned earlier, like by 16, I was on the pro tour with ATP ranking points, and
Mm-hmm.
about 2 months later, I was supposed to play for a national championship, and I went to the doctor. I was feeling some pains, and the
Okay.
doctor goes, they did a MRI of my hips, and they go, you basically have 5 years left to play.
Oh
You're
my
gonna need,
God.
and then you're gonna need either you can either do bilateral hip surgery now, which would take 2 years off your career, or you've
Mm-hmm.
probably got about 5 years left to play. And that was my okay. So I go, well, I'm not going to take 2 years off. You don't know what type of player you're going to be, so I'm going to go to the NCAA. I'm going to have, I'm going to secure a degree, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
try to be the best, one of the best college players in the country there. And I use that opportunity to play pro tennis on the side. Like whenever we were in season in NCAA, I was playing pro tennis, and so it was like there was
Okay.
I don't resilience to me was just not accepting sitting still, finding the next best thing to do at all times.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I cry when I stub my toe to go through like, like the tears and everything. I can't imagine, but you know what, I mean, that's just a good example, 100% of resiliency right there. I know you mentioned, you talked about briefly about your coaching, gig at the University
Yeah.
of Oklahoma. So how did
Hmm.
that, experience, I guess rejuvenate your passion and your love for the game? Because I can imagine at
Hmm.
that point, all these injuries, it's frustrating, and maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe some of the passion kind of dwindled a little bit, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So how did you just rejuvenate your love for the game?
Right. And I think one of the reasons why I went into NCAA coaching is I was I was feeling like I'm just sitting still. I mean, my body is
Mm,
just not getting better at the rate that I wanted to. And by this point, I was, I never put, when the doc said I had 5 years left, I never really internalized that, put that in my head. I thought, no, I'm going to play, I got 10 years left.
mm-hmm.
At least, right. And I, it's just meant like, I was a little off. I was like, it's just mentally, doc's saying what the doc's
Yeah.
supposed to say, but that's bullshit. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh, what does a doc know? He hasn't played
What do
tennis,
they know? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What is it? What is a? You got a PhD before your name. What does that mean? No.
Yeah.
But I had said, I don't want to sit still, and I knew I wanted to get into college coaching at that point. I loved playing in the NCAA. I
Mm-hmm.
loved the team atmosphere. I loved everything about the authenticity behind that league, and I knew it. So I went to Michigan when my body started feeling a bit better. I went to Michigan actually at that point for about, a couple weeks, 3 weeks, a month. And I said, that was my, okay. Then I got an opportunity at Oklahoma, and I
Mm.
said, I want to take that. And because I could use the year to really work on my body, to let it heal, but I could
Yeah.
still build on my career, my life, and I knew I wanted to get down this path. And I went to Oklahoma, and I probably played, in all honesty, I probably played 5, 6 times that whole year.
Mm.
But I was studying, I was obsessed with the team coming through, and I was studying obsessively. I mean, I was in Oklahoma. I didn't know anyone, nothing else to do, but and we had obviously a very rigorous schedule,
Mm-hmm.
and I spent every spare second in some capacity learning and studying the game. And what happened was, by the end of the year, I realized I didn't actually lose that much rhythm or touch. I'm going to go
Okay.
back on the pro tour and give it what I got and see what I got left. And what I realized is I was playing better because I had studied the game so hard. I was so much smarter. Like from a disciplined, strategic standpoint, I was playing quite to the T. And I basically came out and went 34-4,
Mm-hmm.
won 4 pro titles in like 3-4 months, and it was amazing. And so when the pandemic happened, Mission Elite had not started on court, but at that point I was convinced, I was certain that you can still get better even during a pandemic. And I
Okay.
was like, and the sick twisted part of me was like, everybody else is going to be like, oh, we're shut down, we can't do anything. My
Yeah.
part was, I know that when I went to Oklahoma, I didn't play all year and I got so much better that
Mm.
anybody associated with me, myself, we're going to get better during this time, and we're going to come out and be better, and everybody will be discouraged and disappointed, and use it as an excuse like, oh, we haven't played in a year. But I know you can get better without playing a year. So there was the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity when the pandemic happened. You'd think, oh my God, my career's over. No, but for me, it was like, oh my God, this is your chance to really gain edge. And so, yeah, you
Mm-hmm. It
know,
almost like opened up a whole new pathway and laneway for you that you didn't even know was even possible,
right.
which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
So,
the man. That's a perfect segue to get talking about your new venture, Mission Elite. So,
yeah.
because at that time, right? I guess it was early stages of Mission Elite. The vision was just forming. So, I mean,
Right.
you're already a coach at Oklahoma. So, because you could have
Mm,
easily have just been like, hey, you know what? I just want to continue coaching. I just want to be, kind of go down that path. So, what made you kind of put a pause on that and then really try and chase your vision for Mission Elite and bring it to where it is today?
hmm Well, you're right. So I left Oklahoma. I went on the pro tour, and I was pretty much about 6 months in, and I was really peaking and priming. And then the
Mm.
pandemic happened after that tour. But I was also, whatever country I was in, I was building and keeping that college coaching in the back of my mind. Okay, recruiting pipelines, right? Recruiting such a
Right.
big part of NCAA. So
Mm-hmm.
you're right. And when I came back from that tour in India, there, like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
sat down and I still had Mission Elite going in some capacity, and I said, this is the time to go hard on what I can do off court with Mission Elite. And
Mm-hmm.
then as soon as the tennis courts started to open up in June, July, and I saw, okay, Mission Elite, we're going to bring it on court. The company is going to expand, and I'm going to try to see how I can help the best players in the country come into one setting in a there was a problem, and I wanted to put the solution into place and help all the best athletes in the country come together in an environment that they enjoy coming in, and
Mm.
they have enough support in a very uh, culture strong type of way that they're better off with us
Right.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And so the support team, I want to try to help them and guide and give them a support structure that really helps them take off, that wouldn't have existed without the pandemic, but now that's coming to fruition. And not only that, it's something that I feel they're proud to be a part of. It's almost exclusive and premium, and
Okay.
with that, the standards are so high that you only have people that can really pull you up and sharpen you forward.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, it gives you a sense of confidence and pride to be a part of Mission Elite, because it is so exclusive and premium, and you just don't accept the random run of the mill Joe. You're bringing the best in the country into one setting, but they've got to be the right people, and they're going to get better like that. But then also it's something that they can be really proud of and know that we have a team of support behind our backs, in like you said, an individual sport. So it's unique in that way, and it all came together as soon as the first court opened up. So.
Nice. As soon as that first court opened up, you were like, hallelujah, finally we're off to the races.
Yeah, like, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let's do it. I like that because at least from when we've been talking, and you've been telling me a lot about your new venture and what you want to do with it. It's always been a focus on what I like is, okay, these are elite level athletes. They're obviously talented, but what I think separates you guys is you also take into account, okay, I don't want to just develop an elite athlete. I want to develop an elite human being and someone who has elite character. So if you want to just talk about why, I guess, for you guys and the staff here at Mission Elite, that is such an important mission.
Yeah, that is the first entry to the gateway. It is so important to me because, well, first from a development standpoint, the best athletes in the world, okay, so take LeBron James, take Roger Federer, take Tom Brady. These guys, they don't have that much off-court issues. Their character is very strong. Their decision-making off the court is very strong. And so they're good people first. And what happens is that aids in the longevity of their career. Now, take Tiger Woods, take Allen Iverson, people that have made off-court decisions, had character flaws, and look at how when Tiger cheated, it affected his career. Look at how when Allen got into that trouble at the bowling alley, it affected his career. And so, from an actual getting better standpoint, if you're a character strong, moral high person, the chances of you reaching your personal potential becomes quite high, whatever level that may be. And so that's from that. But obviously the second thing is, I just don't want to be around an asshole. I don't think we want to be around an asshole,
Yeah.
And I don't see our guys coming in to an environment wanting to be around somebody that they just don't like. I mean, I wanted to create an environment where even on their worst days, they feel like coming in to get better. And I just don't see them wanting to do that when they go, I got to go to the practice and see this dickhead,
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go to practice and be around people I like, people that I can banter with, people that push me in a positive way, as a person and as a player. And so, care and to be frank, basically, if we're gonna help you in any capacity, we have to like you first. I think that's when the most genuine, authentic results come to fruition. So,
no, that's key. Now, okay, so the character and the elite, they go hand in hand. So when you're, I guess, recruiting athletes to come and train with you, what's that screening process like? How do you guys evaluate the player? So, you're not just looking at the talent, but they'll have the intangibles that, make them want to train, all together.
Right. So it starts with this, if I've got you on my eye and I know that we can really help you and we want to help you, well, then I would invite you.
Okay.
But if I don't invite you, then I always welcome people to basically ask and interview to be a part of this, and then I can make a decision. So some of our guys I've invited, some of our guys have come to me. Most of our guys have come to me basically, but then there's a special few from the beginning that I just knew I wanted them to be a part of this, and they were obviously able to really knock off all the categories at the highest level. That's the first step. And then of course, to get invited or, to be accepted. Well, okay. So the first trait, like you nailed it on the head. They've got to have high character. They've got to be people that we like, and we actually would be like, yeah, we'd go to dinner with him. We could see him in a team setting. And then number two, you've got to meet the minimum requirements from elite results. And that's quite difficult. I mean, you've got to be a national champion. You've got to be, or you got to be professionally ranked. Or you've got to be NCAA, one of the best players in the NCAA. And so that's quite tough. But what happens is when you're that selective with the type of people, they have these qualities that you can really pinpoint, grab out, and sharpen each other with. But all three together, the high character, elite minded, and then a focus and a mission focus, comes just to make an incredible environment and team, because even the training partners are a team, of course, so that's how it goes. You've got to meet those requirements 100%. And if anything, Brady, like as time goes on and as time has gone on, those requirements have been pushed up. So now, like, well, that's the way you evolve, right? We can't just stay at ground zero. This is the starting point. This tough starting point, but like if you think that's tough, see it
wait till you got all the way up here. Yeah.
Only Roger Federer allowed. No, I'm joking. But of course, I really have come to love the guys that have come in, and I'm so bought into them. And if they're still a part of it, it means that we really believe in you. And so, we know that, no progress is just a straight line. There's going to be some really rough days. There's going to be some rough moments, but we believe in you. You're still here. Then of course, that's the way it is. So I believe in all our current guys, of course, and girls, and as long as they're doing the right things, we're going to continue to believe in them. So
no, 100%. No, I totally agree with that. And just, a few notable athletes that, you're training right now is Jada Bowie, Braden Scher, Alex Donsky. So, I mean, not just to focus on them, but, all the athletes you train, like you said, are national champions. There's a certain requirement. So I guess from a training program design perspective, how do you, like, is everything, do you tailor your training programs, like, to each individual athlete? Is it more general? Like, what's the style? Like, if I'm an athlete and I'm being trained by you.
Absolutely. Tailored to the T when it comes to individual setting, and when it comes to the team setting, it's more of, this is the competitive environment. Go and solve your own problem. We're going to help you. We're going to put it together. But part of it is like, you've got to be able to solve your own problem. So when we do individuals with these guys, it's very, okay, we're tailored to you. And of course, everything off court's very tailored to them. But when as soon as we get into the team setting, we're lucky and fortunate to have the right guys that have bought into, it's not about us. It's about the team. It's about the environment. And I've got to learn to make the best out of this team environment. And so that's a very critical and important part to development in my mindset, is learning to basically, like we've talked about earlier, is get the cards. Here's the team, and make the most out of it. Try to squeeze every ounce of juice within it, so that you're not always being spoon-fed, and basically you can learn to create solutions for yourself. But of course, there are always moments and times in the team environment where I do tailor even inside there if necessary, and it doesn't affect anybody else in any way, and it never seems to. We have the right people in place, and so we just made basically a 8-week plan for Braden, who will get ready, and it's to the T. I mean, every day, every week is to the T. What the day is going to look like, the week's going to look like, as a lifestyle, as tennis, as overall conditioning. And then obviously we can adjust as needed, but it's very exact. I mean, we've got, when you're dealing with
very precise down to the T. Okay.
Exactly.
100%. No, I like that. I mean, if you don't prepare, you prepare to fail. You know what I mean? So having that preparation and I mean, personally, I mean, if I was an athlete and, I see yourself or, your people on your staff, taking care in the tiny details, it makes me be like, okay, you know what? I need to focus on is I'm in the right place, and I'm here with the right people, and they care. They give two shits, and they want me to develop into the best player I can be. Right. So
absolutely.
100%.
Very OCD about every little thing. I sometimes I try to hold back, so it's they're really helping me get better as a person and a manager as well, so it's great. It's a win-win.
That's good. I like that. Yeah. So you spoke about earlier about it not just being on-court training, but a whole lifestyle. So who are some of the people and some of the disciplines in terms of staffing that you have that are available to these athletes when they come to you?
Okay, that's a great question. I mean, so first off, here's an extreme one. we've got a guy that's basically wealth management. He's specific for that. His name's Bo Gibbs. He runs Gibbs Financial Group. And so if the are, obviously they're pro athletes, so they're having to learn how to manage and budget and, take care of their finances. He's always ready and available to help them. There's a
Mm,
business consultant that's going to help them pursue their off-court endeavors, from a business standpoint, obviously. Then we have, of course, quite the typical necessities, director of yoga, nutritionist, fitness support, mental performance support. And then, of course, there's equipment. So we've lined up equipment people in place to be able to help them, from the details, the little details. And now when it comes to the support team, they've got elite requirements as well.
mm-hmm.
Because if you're going to help the best in the country and some of the best in the world, well, then you've got to operate at a level that's high and efficient enough to be able to help them and give them something that they can't get anywhere else. And so it really, the coaching requirements are quite intense as well. Just because, it's a whole, every individual matters within the company and within the culture. It's got to be so strong and so forward pushing. So a lot of different areas. Even have tutors for some of the younger ones that are still in school available, or in the NCAA, right? Because some of them are in the NCAA. So if they ever needed tutor help and whatnot, now I know a lot of their teams do help them, but I want to be there for them just in case they don't or they need more at all times. So it's always there,
That's good. Yeah, and I like that, right? I mean, most companies wouldn't have that tutor option available, but from my point of view, it's like you're thinking of you have personal experience in the situation, so I can imagine you're probably like, okay, you know what? When I was in NCAA or when I'm playing, what do I need? And then you take that into consideration, and then obviously 10x it like you've been doing, which is amazing.
Right.
So in terms of your day-to-day stuff, as the CEO, kind of the leader of the organization, what's your role and how do you kind of fit into the puzzle?
Well, of course, I'm actually still technically on tour as well, but
Okay.
my priority, especially during the pandemic, is to overlook everything. So I've put the whole structure and everything together, and then how to manage every individual to operate at that high level within it. And so, of course, I'm overlooking and managing all our elite team. Making sure they're on track and they're leading towards success. I really genuinely care, and I guess my priority would be making sure that they're on the pathway to success, the elite
Okay.
individuals, but then within the elite team. But then my next priority is making sure that the support team around them at all times is operating at a high level in basically strong coordination to be able to help all our elite. So it's all about the elite team players. It's all about them. And so I'm overlooking everything in place to help them have that success. And of course, I'm looking at the finances. I'm looking at the business as a whole. So I've had to really verse myself on how to run a company. And every day I'm learning so much. Obviously, you know how it is, right?
Of course. Yeah,
Every
yeah,
day
yeah.
you're learning so much about, okay, so, you've got to get really competent and smart.
Yeah.
It's such a exciting up and down journey, but and just when you think you got it, something else comes along, some problem comes along that you got to
Oh, I
solve.
know.
And so basically it's tough to overlook so many people. And that's what's
hmm
really tough, is the phone doesn't stop. It's always somebody, right? And you've got to, it's just managing so many people is a challenge, but it's also, it's like a game, as you know, you got to win, So
Exactly.
you
No,
got
and
to
I think
put it in
honestly
place.
that's where the fun of it is. It's like, it's a game that, as you get further along in the game, you're constantly learning new things and it just makes it more
Yeah.
enjoyable and
Right.
fun. It's crazy because it's like even now, like now it's just like it's hard for me to like just put my head down on the pillow and shut my mind off,
Right.
because
Yeah.
my mind is constantly going like, oh, I got to do
Right.
this, or did I do that, or oh, what this strategy here, and it's like, oh my, it's
100%.
overwhelming sometimes, but hey, you know
Yes.
what, like
It's
that
too
just
much.
that just shows that we care and we're invested,
Yeah.
so
It shows you're
100%.
in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. If you
Exactly,
if you
yeah.
work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day and you don't feel like you need a day off, it shows you're in alignment. But damn, yeah, it gets exhausting,
No, 100%.
So
So kind of just to end off a little bit here, in terms of talking about Mission Elite, what I
yes.
know you guys are, this is relatively new, but just looking a little bit towards the future, what's the end goal for you guys, and when everything's said and done, what would you, as an owner, CEO, like to have accomplished and would like people to say about your company at the end of the day?
Well, first and foremost, I want them to say this is the best team cultured environment for professional and elite players in the world. I mean, that's
Hmm.
the end goal. Um, I want them to say we are the place to go, and we have the right people to really develop you as a person and a player. And when you think of the first place you think of when in your head when it comes to that, it's
Hmm.
Mission Elite. And then we can really filter more and more elite, like the level of it becomes just so high. I mean, it's just, you can really obviously give to the best players in the world, but not best players, best people and players in the world, something that can't be given anywhere else. We have a system in place to basically drive personal and obviously career results. It's the first place that comes in your mind. Second off, you know if we basically use it to be able to impact as many people as possible. That's
Hmm.
the end goal. Is so like, yes, we can help the elite players and we are going to bring them to success. We want elite results, obviously, and then to have those achievements be fulfilled in those areas, have the support, the guidance, the structure, the feedback, all to be able to achieve their individual and then as our team goals. Okay.
Okay.
Um, but then use that to be able to impact basically anybody that wants to pursue and has these qualities around the world. And so then it's like, okay, how we can use this, we can impact, and that's where a lot of off-court stuff and online comes in place, so that we can impact people all around the world. I have different, I want to get to the point where we can basically uh, make a difference than more than just tennis. So
Okay. Wow.
I have, visions in my mind where we really can help charitable causes, help people,
Hmm.
um, show that, one of the really things that stick with me is that, and I learned this on tour a little bit, is that who cares how good you are at your skill if you're just an asshole. I mean, like, what
Yeah.
matters is who you are as a person. Like, and it's for yourself. Like, Brady, like what I was saying is I had so much self-esteem wrapped up in me as a tennis player that
Hmm.
if I were to lose back then, I just wouldn't be able to look at myself like, what am I, right? And so when
Wow.
you can get to the point where you can go and look yourself in the mirror and say, I could be the worst at anything. Like, what
Hmm.
happens if I were to lose my arm, right? I need to be
Hmm.
able to look myself in the mirror like, damn, I'm just so proud of me as a person. And I want everybody to experience that. I want these players who I know have a lot of their identity wrapped up in their tennis or their skills, whatever that is. And it could be in any area, sport, life, business, whatever. And
Hmm.
then say, if we were to lose all that, we could still go home at the end of the night, look ourselves in the mirror and be damn proud of who we are as people. And I want to share that message, and I want to try to educate and inspire people to achieve that as their primary, before you take pride in all your skills, take pride in who you are as a person. And then, now you're somebody that really has a positive impact on anybody. It's contagious. You
Yeah.
can impact your family. You're somebody that people just not only want to be around, but somebody that people get better being around. I don't care if it's business, tennis, music, whatever, any area. So there's a really lot of area for growth, but that's the ultimate goal, is to make people better, people that help the world as a whole. So
No, I love that. And that's, I feel like, just as a, not even for company culture's sake, but just as a whole, as a mission, I feel like that's something that's so powerful, because it's like you're not serving yourself, you're in the service of others, which I think is a
absolutely.
thousand times, more fulfilling at the end of the day. I
Right.
know one thing I want to bring back to, I know we talked a little about earlier, obviously with yourself being the founder and kind of the leader of the organization. How important is it to you to really lead, and not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, so that
Mm.
your athletes, your staff, they're being like, okay, you know what, Raheel, he's the leader. He's not just someone who just talks. I can actually see him. He's everything he says to those athletes or everything he says to us, he's already done it, or if not, is willing to do at the the same quality as the organization demands.
It's so important. Yes, I overlook everything, and yes, I get to ultimately say what goes on, but
Mm-hmm.
whoever's suffering the most in terms of even a drill or an exercise, I want them to know that if I ask them to go do a 5:30, a.m. track run for 2 hours, that I would be there with them. Like,
Yeah.
when these guys have to run 17s, I want them to know, and I make sure that they know that I'm going to run that with them.
Okay.
That when they got to do these contests, these physical, grueling mental contests, I want to be in there with them. I think that's so important in leadership, that you don't ask anybody something to do something that you wouldn't yourself do. And
Mm-hmm.
so whenever I do ask, I actually have a lot of confidence saying it, because I know I've probably done it before. And I know you can do that. No, it's
It's
stop
too
whining,
hard.
stop complaining.
Yeah.
I've done that probably tenfold, and so then I go and I go, okay, like a lot of times I'll go, okay, guys, you think that's tough? Okay, I'm gonna fucking get in there with you.
Right. Right. Watch how it's done. Yeah.
Exactly. Like we're gonna suffer together, and I think
Yeah.
that's so important, that whoever's overlooking a company or whatnot is willing to suffer from the with what they're trying to accomplish with whoever it is. That no job is too small for you.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that's so important with leadership. I was fortunate enough at Indiana to be under a head coach that was really willing to get in there and suffer with me. And when you see the lead, like when you see the guy who controls the flow of everything, get in there and probably maybe, and I try to suffer more than them often. Like
Oh
I
wow.
try to suffer.
Okay.
Then it's like, okay, there's that buy-in's easier, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, yeah,
I
but
got to do. Yeah.
that, and one of the requirements for the staff is that they're willing to do everything they ask of the
Okay.
players. I think that's everything. So
I like that. Oh, that's awesome. Now, just I guess for you on a personal level, who is either a leader in your life? Doesn't have to be an athlete or celebrity. Just could be whoever. That someone
mm,
is that you look to as guidance, or if you're struggling, you need advice on something. Who's that leader in your life that you go to?
I've been so fortunate to have a couple. You know, Obviously, there's my father, but then there's also, uh, you know, NCAA had such an impact on my life. I think, Coach Kroll from the University of Oklahoma. He's the head coach up there. He's somebody I always come to when I have a problem that maybe I can't always go inside the company with. He gives me great advice. I mean, when you're running a team in the NCAA, you're basically like a CEO of the team, and so
Mm-hmm.
you're managing the players, the scholarships, the culture, and there's so much criticism with every move you make. And then of course at Indiana, the head coach, Coach Wertzman, is also, I'm very close with them. So those two guys have huge impacts on my life. They're absolute go-tos for me. And they have experience, and I can really relate to them because of how competitive they are. But then of course, their experience managing an organization within itself. You know, every day you step up the ladder, you're going to have, like, there's criticism with everything you do. And how do you manage that? I haven't been one that gets too phased by that, because I know there's,
Okay.
but it is something to manage, because you never want to doubt your decisions, because no matter what you do, somebody's going to be pissed and somebody's going to be happy.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
so it's just like, ultimately, they give me great guidance in that. How do you manage, employees? How do you manage whole organization? How do you manage even, basically setting up the team practice, everything? How do you manage all that? How do you manage the
Mm-hmm.
finance, all that? They're go-tos for me. But one of the first things, one of the lessons that they expect, they impose the most on me in my position right now, is trust your gut, because there's always going to be somebody that has something bad to say, but trust your gut and go do that. That's when you're most your most authentic self. That's when the team can benefit the most. That's when the company can benefit the most. And so, you know, no doubt.
No, 100%. I like that. No, that's all good. good messaging and good things to consider, especially from people who are, important people in your life and want to see you, watch you succeed and be along there for the journey.
Yes.
So for people who want to learn more about you, they want to, learn more about Mission Elite, maybe even, participate in the program and the team that you have there. Where's the best place for them to find you out online?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our Facebook group, which is called Mission Elite Performance. And then of course our Instagram, that's also called Mission Elite Performance, all one word together.
Okay.
And right now we're currently with the demand, we're building the website right now, but the reason why it's held off is because I want to make sure it was done right. Everything was done to the T. So that will be up too. That's going to be Mission Elite tennis.com. And so we're going to put that all together. But for now, Instagram is probably the most popular one. We also have the Twitter handle, mission_elite. But yeah, it's the go-to place I'd say is the Instagram. That's where we're most active. That's where we're really making an impact on, and that's Mission Elite Performance. So yeah, check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. And just for ease of access for you guys, if you wanted to go check out all those channels that Raheel just mentioned, I'll make sure to leave that in the description box. So if you want to just click that now, go down there, you can browse all those channels he just mentioned, and, easy access for you. So you don't got to go search in the web. So lastly, I want to end off with a little rapid fire question round, just kind of something lighthearted and fun. Let the audience know a little bit more about you. You ready to go? Okay.
Absolutely.
So if you could play against any tennis player, dead or alive, who would it be?
Jimmy Connors.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite brand of shoe?
Right now, I think it's that's a tough one. Lacoste, maybe.
Lacoste? Okay. Yeah. So which is your favorite type of court to play on? Hard court, clay court, grass court, or carpet court?
Hard court. Yeah.
Hard court? Okay, why?
I'm just grown up on it. I like it fast. I like to control the play, and so I'm very comfortable with it. It's what I've been around my whole life. Mostly.
Okay. Lastly, if you could switch lives with any person in the world, who would it be?
Oof, that's a tough
I know it's a tough one.
Let me think here. If I could switch lives with anybody, no, I think I might got this. You know what? Viktor Frankl. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning.
Oh yeah, I know who he is. Yeah.
Miserable life. But I've been so curious as to the mental process behind surviving such a situation. I mean, another one is Unbroken. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if I want to live through that life, but I definitely want an insight into how they survived. Have you watched the movie Unbroken?
I have. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, where do you find the motivation and the will to live in those situations?
I don't know.
It's
but
brutal.
even when they made him hold up like the plank and stuff, I'm like, my arms would give out after like the first hour, like
you got to be a beast. Yeah,
you literally have to be a beast. No, 100%. But yeah, no, those are some great answers, guys. This concludes the interview. Raheel, really appreciate you, taking the time out of your schedule. I know you're a busy guy to, sit down, talk with me. Had a great time. Again, guys, like I mentioned before, all of Raheel's social links, including the ones he mentioned, with Mission Elite, will be in the description box below. So I encourage you guys to reach out, connect with him. Definitely a guy who has a lot of knowledge. If you're into sports, tennis, in particular, definitely reach out to him. He's got a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge there. For us, if you guys like to connect with us on all social platforms, we'll also have all of our links down there below, so you guys can just go down there for everything. So yeah, again, guys, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Real Talks.